Reese is blocked by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues, Mr. Jock Landale. Live in person. Last time we did it was remotely. Pro was on that one. For the listeners, it's 4:30 Australian time. Jock thinks he doesn't sleep, but he would most likely be sleeping. But welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate you having me, mate. You've got a lovely little setup here that I've just had the tour of. Very jealous and hopefully emulate it one day.
You are the first live interview here.
Is that right?
Yes, you must. We'll always remember you.
I feel like I've earned it as well, to be honest with you.
You have
taken shit from you and Pro
me,
for way too long. I reckon this is only right.
Just fucking up your name and stuff. But yes,
Correct.
This is the studio that we'll eventually have on camera for you listeners. We're working on it still setting things up. But what's going on, man?
Bugger all, mate. I just got done with my Bucks party down in Byron, a week out from camp. I'm sure everyone will be stoked to hear that. Apart from that, not really too much. Just been hanging out with India's dad up in Brizzy, who lives up in Brizzy, kind of working out up there. Got to run in with the Bullets yesterday, and then jumping into camp in like 4 days or something like that. So
I was going to ask you about that actually. Was Bainsy trying to go out your head because he didn't make the Boomer squad?
They moved me to the 4, so I managed to.
That's not a guy you want to wrestle with.
No, I had it in the back of my mind. I was like, well, I'll just better avoid him a little bit here.
Or put me on his team.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure United were happy seeing you in that Bullet shirt yesterday.
Mate, they jumped straight on the Instagram and they were like, this burns our eyes or something like that. It was gold. I tried covering it up as well. I got tape over it and everything, and they were like,
"Nah, it is
take that shit off."
I get it. You got to get a workout in when you're in a specific city and you have to wear their shit. You have to wear their
Exactly.
shit. That's the way it goes, man.
Sydney Kings, mate, just invite me down.
100%. Hoops Capital East now. Got a new facility out now near the Swan. So if you're ever in Sydney,
Have you guys got Hoop City out in Sydney?
no, it's Hoops Capital East. We've got a campus out. A facility now that's connected to the Sydney Swans.
Who? That's always been there. That's not,
No, we just got the deal. Like it's only been open maybe 4 or 5 months, and we just got a government grant to build a brand new facility out west near our arena. So
who runs Hoops Capital?
that's our kind of the holding of the Sydney Kings.
Oh, okay.
So Paul Smith.
Yeah, right.
That's why he's always banging on. I mean, he started the name to troll.
Oh, he is such a troll, mate.
Yeah, and Paul is. Like, people don't understand. Like, Paul gets clicks and it creates debate, but he's an owner you want, man. Like, people knock him, especially in the league, because he's hard on your sleeve. Like, he goes in the locker room and sings after.
Does he really?
When we win, and he comes in the locker room and cries when we lose, bro. Like,
I've seen videos of you guys after you win the championship. He's first one in there.
But he's also crying after the games. That's what people understand.
Right.
He's not just a bandwagon dude that, oh, yeah, great job, boys, and then you don't see, the owners you don't see after a loss. It's just like everyone hightails at home. He's in there like weeping with us when we lose, man. So
that's awesome.
He's hard on sleep. And you want owners like that in the NBL, in my opinion. You want people that are, he's going to cross the line every now and then, so be it. But I think it's good for business and good for the league, rather than where the NBL was 15 years ago, was no-name owners or faceless owners, and then a club goes under, and you're like, well, they weren't really that passionate about it, right?
Right.
So it's a big difference. But good season from you, man.
Appreciate it.
Stats real quick. Not eye-popping numbers, but I think a real solid season, 6-4, 53%, 75% from the free throw line. One thing I did want to ask you, your three ball.
Yeah.
What happened, man?
Don't know, mate. It was really strange. I went into that preseason just on a fucking tear, like
shooting the ball,
just everything.
Yeah.
Like I feel as though I really found my groove as an NBA player. I think I was a bit more tentative at the Spurs because they just weren't really giving me an idea of what they wanted out of me. Monty was completely different. He was like, I had Monty in my ear.
This is preseason, right?
This is preseason. Monty and Mark Bryant, who I don't know if you know anything about Mark Bryant, but Mark Bryant is a fucking legend.
Former pro.
Yeah, he was my favorite, just about my favorite coach I've ever had. And they were in my ear about the offensive side of the ball. Like, look, this is what we need from you. Punish the mismatches, pick and pop whenever you feel like it, play in the short roll. And they just opened my game up offensively. And then I had Brian Gates, who's kind of bounced around a fair bit, but he was in my ear defensively. And he was like, mate, I've watched you play. Like, I've watched a lot of your clips, and you're not that bad defensively. And that was the first guy who's ever said that to me. And I was like, God damn, I needed to hear that. Because I always felt like, I'm not the most talented vertical. I don't have the reach like you did and all of that kind of stuff. But positionally, I felt like I could impact the ball well. And that's what I figured out this year, was kind of how to impact it a bit more defensively. And then you looked at the numbers, 3/4 of the way through the season, the coaching staff pulled up the numbers. and it's like best pick and roll defensive bigs in the NBA, and it was, I can't remember who the first one was, but then it was Bismack Biyombo.
Draymond would be up there, yeah.
Yeah, it might have been Draymond. It was Draymond, Bismack Biyombo, and then I clocked in at 4. I can't remember who 3 was, and I was like, when I saw that, that really sparked my confidence more defensively to kind of take a few more gambles and mess around with things, and that stayed consistent through the whole year. So, mate, I honestly, I came in on a tear. I really gave it to DA early on in the preseason as well, where we were super competitive, but we were I was going at him, and mate, that was really good for me because DA being a quality big, it was just constant pressure by him and CP in the pick and roll where I just figured a lot of stuff out, but then I was having some success offensively. So, going in there, I was high level confidence. I shot the piss out of it in, the preseason games that we played. And then for whatever reason, just kind of, you figure out quickly that the preseason numbers that you're putting up and all that, they're not going to stick. And I had it in the back of my head, hey, I've been performing great, so I'm going to be playing 25 minutes. And then you get to that first game and it's 14 minutes. And you're like, what the fuck's going on? And then you realize you're playing behind a max player. So he was the first max guy I ever played behind. But my minutes just dried up, and then it was really hard to kind of find a rhythm because it was like a 3-minute gap. It was a 3-minute burst at the end of the first, 3 or 4 minutes in the second, and it was consistent like that throughout the year. And so then I was only getting 1 or 2 shots, from 3 a game because they just didn't really need me when I was. It was different in preseason. I was out there with the second unit, but in season I was out there with Book and CP pretty much at all times, who would just be like, just roll. So then
even if you have an open one, you feel
the pressure to shoot.
3 minutes, I better make this shit. I can't shoot another one for the game, right?
So I started.
But just for context for people, you shot 25% this season, but with the Spurs, you were 32.6.
Yeah,
smaller minutes, sample size, but I know with the national team, you shot the ball well. I remember our first camp against you. You had a couple on me, and then I'm like, oh shit, now I got to get out of the paint on this.
Yeah.
Then you're driving by me, so you have it.
I have it.
But what I like about it is, even though you have it, I think when it kind of your percentages went down, you didn't. There's a lot of bigs that then get soft. I guess what I'm saying is, even if you did shoot 35%, I think that can be kind of a detriment to in a way, because then all of a sudden you're not doing what you did in the Denver series and the series against Clippers, right? You're not rolling, you're not getting your head on the rim, you're not getting offensive rebounding position because you're just spaced in 3, kind of Brook Lopez-ish, right?
Yeah.
Like his offensive rebound numbers have dropped significantly
started shooting
because he started floating to 3.
Yeah, so I started the season. I think I started the season I'm not even kidding. It might have been 3 or 4 of 30. I was shooting 11%, and I started feeling good about myself because I had a few good shooting games. And then some fucking nuffy just posted out the worst shooter in the NBA by percentage with a minimum of 30 shots in the first 30 games or something, and it was me.
And you saw it and then deleted your Twitter account?
I just went bang, yeah, for sure. And then I just went confidence just went bang, and I was like, oh, geez. And so then I went through a rough shooting month. Those first 2 months were real rough. But then if you break down the season from there, it was like 40%, maybe 32%, and then that's what got it back up to. So I started getting going in the end, but as you said, I realized that I didn't really need to shoot on this team, especially when KD came. There was just no real opportunity for me to shoot because I was playing out of the short roll the whole time, which for me is one of my favorite positions to play out of. So it just kind of that's how the season evolved. And I mean, we'll see what happens with Houston. I've had a few conversations with them, and they want me to utilize it a little bit more. I went and played with them one day and just shot the crap out of the ball, and they were like, all right, we want you to utilize that more this year. So then that's kind of been a bit of a focal point for me this offseason. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not really too stressed about it anymore because I know that I can impact the game at a high clip by not doing that now, and that's something that I needed to register because at the Spurs it was just all threes.
Yeah, and it can be the devil as well, like you said. You can end up getting too comfortable with it, and then you end up floating a lot and kind of in that no man's zone. Then you're all of a sudden, do I crash? Because I'm at the 45 pick and pop. I didn't get it. Do I now crash? Do I get back? And then a lot of guys just don't crash, and I think that's where you were really valuable. But also during the season, talk to us about how you handled. I guess there was a lot of adversity. I feel like for you this past season because you were. The rotations were kind of strange from the outside looking in. You need to talk about Monty, but as a fan and as someone watching the games, Pro and I talking, it was like shit. You'd have a great run of 10 games, and then 3-4 games you get DMPs out of nowhere, and then we'd be like, oh shit, and Pro would always say he's going to get back in the rotation. It'll be all right. It'll work itself out. But then You come back in 3 or 4 good games, maybe a bad stretch in a game, and then yanked again for 2 or 3 games. How did you handle that? Just trying to stay focused, especially knowing that you are, essentially a contract year, coming from Europe, a couple of years in the NBA, really trying to stick in the NBA.
Yeah, it was stressful. It was just because of that. I was like, if it doesn't happen this year where I sign like a big contract, I don't know when it will happen, because I mean, we're in it for a bit of security long term, right? And I felt that pressure big time going into this season. And once the opportunity was there, and I was like, holy shit, like I'm actually playing a lot here for those first 15 games a season. I was like, I have a real chance to do this, and so I got real excited about it. And then, to be honest with you, mate, we went to Utah, and this was the first time I got dropped from the rotation. We went to Utah, and I jumped the ball at half court, which is a huge no-no, as you know. Like, you just don't
trying to get a steal. You mean?
Yeah. So I tried to get a steal at half court. They come down, they dunk the ball, and it was like we were like 14. We were like 11-4 at this point. Like, we lost that game, and Monty came to me and he was like, look, that really changed the flow of the game. I need you as the backup big to be like super foundational and solid and not do stupid stuff like that, because we just can't afford, whilst you're on the court, to have mistakes. I just want you to be rock solid. And I was like, I took that to heart, and I was like, I get it. And it won't happen again. Next game, that's when I stopped playing.
So you didn't get back in again the next game?
I didn't touch the floor at all. Yeah. And it was my parents touchdown for that game. I told you about it. So I was pretty bummed about it. But from there, it was kind of interesting, because it was like Biz and I really felt the pressure of like, you've got to play well, otherwise the other fellas coming in. And we would talk about it. Like, Busy's a fucking awesome guy. So like, we would talk about it, and we were like, mate, this is hard work. Like, you just never know if you're going to, if you're going to be the first one off the bench, or if you're going to, just be dropped from the lineup halfway through the game. So it was like, you've got 7 minutes essentially to hopefully lock in the spot for a couple more games. And that's like a lot of pressure, and it's hard to play free, as you know, if you're like really in your head. So we struggled with it a little bit. I know I struggled with it a little bit at times, but I suppose that like having Mark Bryant there, who was a real big helping hand for me, and being able to lean on India and my parents and stuff on just kind of getting the frustration out before I went into the facility was super handy. But at the end of the day, it was kind of, I really benefited from playing with a team who at the time, we had real championship aspirations, and that really like tied in with just like, this is bigger than me, and like, I've just got to be the good teammate and, hopefully win a championship, because winning takes care of everything. And that's what I lived by for the most part of my career. So that definitely helped. But mate, like, it's no easy task. Like, I was bummed a lot. And I suppose that just kind of feeding back into, well, what can I do to get on the court, rather than why the fuck aren't I on the court, was like a big point for me. So just kind of getting back in the gym and trying to, work on the little things that he needed to see me do. And like, look, like it's a bit cringe and cliche, I suppose, but like them just seeing you in the gym doing extra work and all that kind of stuff feeds into like the confidence that gets you back on the court. So I did a lot of that. And then, yeah, I mean, as you said, like I would, even if I got 4 games in a row and played great, I mean, I just like, they'd turn around and they'd not play me. I shouldn't say he, because as you know, it's not just Monty's decision. Like, it's a collective. So they would just turn around and not play me, even if I was playing great. Like, I know at the end of the season, we played against the Lakers, Sacramento, and then we played against Philly, and it was 3 games. And like, I had 17 and 10 or something like that against Sacramento. I had a great game against the Lakers, because I think Biz went down with an injury and DA was out, so I had like another 17 and 10
that
game.
was a stretch remembered, and
I was killing it. And then it was just like, didn't play going into playoffs, and it just stopped. And I was like, this is bizarre. Like, I've just had these great games. We played against the Clippers with a full roster as well, and I went crazy. And then he just stopped playing me, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I don't understand this at all. So, like, not easy, frustrations a lot of the time, but it's just part of the gig, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing. I think it's the NBA, 82 games, same amount, if not more, practices, shoot-arounds, all that shit. It's easier said than done, but staying kind of level-headed throughout it, that was kind of my biggest challenge, that I knew, like, you're just going to stay level-headed throughout it. You see a lot of young fellas that were in your position. I had a similar thing going to Golden State. So, like, going from Milwaukee, number one, number two option for 4 or 5 straight years, going to Golden State and being essentially 4, 5, 6, right? If I went to front office and was like, this is bullshit, where's my touches? Like, you'd be an idiot, right?
Yeah,
like, and it's the same with you on Phoenix, right?
Yeah,
like
I would never.
You got Booker, you got Durant, you got even DA's, like you said, a max guy is ahead of you, big money guy.
Yeah.
You go, hey, like Jock Landale needs some touches, they fucking laugh at you, right? So that's hard for a young player to hear. And there's a lot of young kids that come through and that, you know, you would have seen them just been in the NBA for a couple of years, but I saw notoriously guys come through and I can do more. It's like, yeah, we get that, but that's Steph Curry over there, man.
Yeah,
that's Klay Thompson. Like, I can bucket him. I can do this. We don't need you to do that. Like, we just need you to come in like and be solid. And that's kind of the biggest challenge for guys trying to stick in the NBA.
Mate, we had a really special group in Phoenix, in that there wasn't any of that from the lower ends of the spectrum. Like, none of from like, you know, 4 down would ever complain, because we all understood what was going on up at the top, and we all understood that we were not on the level of KD, Bogut, CP. Winning. Yeah, and we were winning. Well,
for the most part, he did a bit of a lull.
We had a shocker.
Yeah, with the injuries. Yeah,
with
the injuries too. Yeah.
So like, there was no real, and you know what, that injury phase was probably the most frustrating in a lot of ways, because we were losing so many games and everyone was talking about, but last year we didn't do this, and last year, you know, we weren't losing, so what the fuck's going on? And it's like, mate, last year's last year. We got a completely different roster now. Like, what are we talking about that for? So there was just like, you know, that was a time period where you saw a lot of guys really like step up and come into their own. Mikal Bridges, you know, he really came into his own in that period, but there was like, I mean, the center position was constantly packed out, so there was never a bigger load put on us at all. You know, then we had Dario come back during that period, so he slotted right in at the 4.
And a lot of times the center position is not a 48-minute position.
No,
so it's probably a 35, and then there's a small ball guy playing the 5 for a stretch.
So it was like there was no real change to our roles, where you saw everyone else, like you had 2-way players being starters at some point, so that was like kind of hard, because me, Biz, and DA, DA was always playing his 35 minutes a night, but me and Biz were always sitting there like, man, all these guys are getting more burn, more minutes, and like you're watching them and you're like, I wish that, like, you know, we could be out there doing that, but DA was always consistently there. So that period was one of the tougher periods, just because we saw a lot of people having some serious success and coming into their own, but we were just continuing with the same roles.
Yeah, it makes it hard. Yeah, it's just such an adjustment. I think mid-tier teams, that's what makes and breaks for teams. It's like, do you have buy-in from the bench and the younger guys? And you see a lot of guys come in that are, you know, that can't buy a role. Yeah. That's why you always look at G League, right? You look at who the leading scorers are in the G League, then they ever rarely get call-ups.
No.
Ever rarely. Leading rebounder, though, you get a call-up.
Yeah, you don't need more scorers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what that was like. We had a guy in LA, and he was, when I was with the Lakers, and he was a leading scorer, and he was a great scorer, great bucket, and he was frustrated that he, you know, couldn't show what he could do. And I'm like, dude, like, they don't need scorers. They need, you know, if you're a guard, pick up full court. If you've been caught up, pick up full court. Don't turn the ball over.
Right.
They're your 2 goals, right? They don't care if you score 0. Just don't. If you do those 2 things, you'll find minutes, because they'll, you know, big rebound, protect the rim. That's it. Set good screens.
That's it.
They don't care if you know, hit 5 threes in a row when you're, you know, because you're eventually not going to be looked to do that, right? When the guy's back from injury or whatever. So that's the biggest challenge, and I think you really figured that out.
Denver series is when I really
100%. Yeah, and you could see like.
The only reason I got the contract I got was probably because of what I did in the Denver series.
Like, but it was all just effort shit. So it was all just like, you know, running into Jokic, making him work, making him box you out, trying to get second chance. You know, you had a couple of games where you had, you know, within 3 possessions, you had 3 or 4 second chance opportunities to tip out. So like that extra shit that no one wants to do is important. But like if you were like, oh, I didn't get a touch, you know, last possession, I'm going to pout. Like for young kids as well out there, like it's that next possession. And I think that's a very important part of your basketball journey.
Yeah, I gave zero shits about whether or not I was shooting a shot, because I knew that KD and Book, given the tear that they were on, were just going to shoot everything. So I was like, well, the only way I can really get extra shots here is if I just rebound the ball and go straight back up with it. And then, you know, defensively, that's when I was really like, all right, the only way, because I wish I'd played those first 2 games, because I felt as though in those first 2 games we were level-headed and we were like, yeah, we can win these. not to say that we were ever got in the mindset where we weren't going to win, but like game 5 when we got it back to 2-2 and we went to Denver, it was almost like we've already lost 2 here. No one's won a game in Denver yet. Like there was a bit of like extra baggage on top of that game. And so it just felt like there was a lot more tension in the room when we went 3 and 4. It was like loose and we were like, we got nothing to lose. Let's just go. But, you know, I had the luxury and I wanted to play those first 2 games, which is what I was saying. But like I felt lucky that I didn't, because I really got to sit there and like key in on the game and be like, right, like what are we missing? And I just felt like we were missing making Jokic work. I felt like I watched, and this is no knock on the other guys on the team, but I felt like I just watched him run up and down the court without anyone touching him, and he was coming off screens. No one was bumping him. And I was like, well, why are we doing this? Like, this guy is just going to carve us up anyway, so we might as well kill him as much as we can when he's on offense, so that when he comes down on defense, like he's tired. So I was just like, he would come across half court and I would be 5 steps above the free throw line, even if the ball's damn near behind me, which is a big no-no. And I would just be like bumping my shoulder into him, trying to just slow him down as much as possible. And anytime like the ball went up, even if he was damn near running down the other end of the court, not going for an offense ball, I was just chucking the shit out of him, just like, why not? Like no one else is doing it. So
did you notice in the playoffs the level of officiating change?
Oh mate,
how crazy is it?
Oh my god,
how crazy is it?
It's fucking nuts, because I was getting away with so much.
It's insane.
I was like, the whole season, my frustration was
ticky-tack shit.
Ticky-tack fouls. And Monty was like, dude, you got to stop fouling. And then the first possession I touched the court, like proper touch the court, he caught the ball. I like pushed him out to half court and I just rode him for like around the 3-point line, like hand checking him, grabbing him, and then he puts up a shot and I'm waiting for this whistle and it doesn't go. And if you watch the replay back of this possession, he puts up a shot and I half stop because I'm like, where's the whistle? No whistle. And then there's like bobbling the ball and then I go and punt, like hit him again and then they call a whistle. So it was just like once I got that possession, I was like, oh no, I can get away with some stuff this series. And then I was just into it.
Oh, it's insane, man. Like I really enjoyed playoff games just because you just know that you can set hard physical screens. You can move a little bit. You can a little bit of hand checking. There wasn't as many superstar calls. Like there's this probably, I reckon there's like 75% less, like 3/4 of them are gone. The superstar bullshit calls. You see like the James Harden sweep through fouls. You just don't get them in the playoffs. Yeah. I always enjoyed it because I felt like it was the purest FIBA type, basketball where it was like, okay, we're going to let the result be what it is by the best team rather than the regular season. They want stars to come score 40 so the fans are happy and all that kind of stuff. But in the playoffs, you just notice cause people talk about it when you get in the league. Oh, wait till those playoffs start, young fella. You hear all that shit, right? When I was in Milwaukee, we went once. So it was like you always hear twice. We always hear from the vets. You're like, yeah, whatever. It can't be that different as basketball. And then you get in it, you're like, holy shit, this is way different.
But did you feel like when you got to the playoffs for the first time, given that you'd played a bit of FIBA basketball, you didn't really notice it? Because people were really talking about it a lot. And when I got there and I got on the court and I had the first little stint against the Clippers, I was like, man, I didn't really notice it that much. Like I noticed that there was a lot more like tension in the air and stuff, but I didn't really feel the extra physicality. Maybe it's just because we play that physical anyway.
I think it's physical regardless. It's just in the regular season you can foul out much quicker.
Yeah.
So I think the refs just let a whole lot more go. It's almost like the refs say, like, the playoffs is for the men now. Like we're gonna, you got to earn it. We're not going to give you baby calls.
Right.
And like my first playoff series was against Detroit with Ben Wallace and Rashid and McTainer McDyess as like this skinny 7-foot young fellow. Like, it was just like, holy shit. Like these guys, and they were just cruise control that whole series and beat us 4-1, right? Like we slipped in the 8th seed and never had a chance really, but just to get to the playoffs my rookie year was awesome. But it definitely, it's just so noticeable. Obviously the pressure ratchets up if you're in a smaller franchise, doesn't get a big, maybe gets 10 or 11,000, then it's sold out all of a sudden every game. So it definitely makes a difference there. But I just enjoyed being able to just lay people out. Like our first playoff run with the Warriors was against Denver. And
that was a great series.
Kenneth Faried used to like mess us up, like because he's just all energy and effort. And I was like, so he used to try to bully a lot of our guys and this and that. Clippers did it a bit as well with Blake, and then I'm not taking full credit for it, but when I got there, I was like, nah, like I start clotheslining some of you motherfuckers. Like, so I just started like I just there's clips on YouTube just for Reed trying
I've
to
seen
crash,
him,
and I'll
mate.
just turn around and jack him, throw him into the front
Great.
row, stare at him, put my hand up, take the foul. Like, cool, it's a foul, whatever.
Yeah.
And you need that, right? But
Yeah,
it was always fun in the playoffs, man, and it's just a whole different level. But moving on from that, you talk about having a good season. You called me a little bit stressed with your contract situation, a little bit of a low ball from Phoenix at the time. Just talk me through that process. It's kind of been your first real foray into the business of the NBA. You know, I'm sure your exit interview in Phoenix was probably all glowing. We want you back. We love you, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, your first offer is always not what you want, but it's far from what you expected, right? And then your reality sets in of how the business works, right?
Yeah, you're right. The exit interview was really upbeat, and not knowing anything about that, the, you know, first free agency I've ever been in. I felt fantastic, and I felt like I was coming off the high of the playoffs as well. I was like, man, I've really managed to make a name for myself here, and this is great. You know, guys like Kendrick Perkins are talking about me. Like, I was really pumped. And then, you know, you kind of get further and further away from the season, and you start to realize, like, there's been a lot of basketball played since that second round, and, like, you know, the panic sets in a little bit. But the reality of Phoenix's situation is that they couldn't pay anyone above minimum except for two of us. I think it was me and Torrey Craig. And so I was sitting there and I was like, you know, they can pay both Torrey and I up to the mid-level, which was like 11.7 or something like that. So I was like, why wouldn't they give us a little payday? Like, with me and Torrey, I felt like had pretty good years. And, you know, as you know, like in the NBA, you want those kind of, you know, $6 to $9 million contracts. They're very tradable, and I feel like Phoenix needed that a little bit because they had so many guys at the top end of the scale, and then so many guys at the bottom end of the scale. They needed to throw some numbers in the middle there. So, they initially, when that period starts, and, you know, I can't remember what the dates are and all of that, but when that period started and they came at us at, you know, the 6 o'clock on New York time, whatever that
when it opens,
when it opens is, it was just a little. It was not where we wanted it to be, and like I wasn't looking for like 10 million.
Of course,
like I was very realistic.
It's confronting, right?
It is, and I was like, whoa, okay, like, you know, this is not what I was expecting, and this is not what I was, you know, thought that we were where we were at, given the conversation that we had at the end of the season, and then, you know. We said to him, like, I was really excited the opportunity to stay in Phoenix and go to war with, you know, Booker and KD and all these guys again, and I loved playing with them. I feel like I found a home there and I found a role, and we were excited to stay in Phoenix. So, you know, we just wanted them to kind of have like a conversation with us about, all right, let's see where we can get this to, because we know that this is the offer that you've come with first, but, like, you know, where's your wiggle room at? No wiggle room, like 3 times, no wiggle room. And we were just like, okay, this is a bit awkward now, isn't it? So then it was, you know, all right, well, how about, because this isn't going to work, and I don't want to get too much into the details, but, you know, this isn't going to work. Let's go our separate ways. And that was kind of the conversation we had. And then it was to the market, and the market's fucking daunting. Yeah. Like, you know, you're waiting on these pieces to fall before you.
That's the problem. You got to wait for the big dog.
It's the worst. So the big dog was Brook Lopez, and
in your position,
in my position, yeah. And so we were waiting on him to kind of make his decision, and we knew that there was, you know, everyone starts kind of coming at you with, yeah, look, we're interested. We'll give you a minimum now, but, like, we'll have to wait until because we're talking to Brook, and so we're just like, you know. We're sitting there, and I'm panicking for like fucking 3 days or something like that, like thinking
especially
the worst
when it's
things.
Quiet, yeah, agent doesn't hit you, right?
It's just the worst. And, you know, the problem was I was in Australia, so there's like a 6-hour gap there where I just wouldn't hear from him, and I'm just like, oh no, what's happening here? So, you know, you get fed these little yeah, this might happen, and this might happen, and this might happen, and from where I've been at and what I've gone through, I knew that until it was on paper, it's all just fucking talk. So at least I knew that, but it was also like detrimental to me because I was like, they're not going to do it. Anyways, you know, Brook finally his piece falls and the agent gets us on the phone and 2:00 in the morning, and I missed the call completely. And India picks it up and she's like, "Jock, wake the fuck up!" Like, it's
Sammy.
Sammy.
Over here at the time, right?
Yeah, over here. And so, I finally come to, and my agent, he's chatting to me, and he's like, "Look, I need you to like wake up, go have a shower, cold water on the face, because like Ime is going to call you, and the contract could ride on how well you guys get along." So I'm like, "Holy shit, it's 2 a.m. Like, I've just woken up, cold shower,
like FaceTime and everything." Was it FaceTime?
He said it was FaceTime. It only ended up being a phone call. So I went like fully dressed up, like, "Hey mate, how?" But it was just a phone call. So, anyways, get him on the phone. We have this great conversation. We got some. One of my college teammates is now front of the bench with the Rockets, so we chatted a bit about him. And I just think that like our character, personality traits, and all that kind of align. Like, he's pretty intense, and I think that I am as well, as you know. And we really just lined up well. And then, my agent says to me, "I need you to stay awake because this call could come in at any time to agree on the contract." I was like, "Yeah, mate, like, whatever, like, sounds good." I hand the phone to India and I'm like, "Ends, I'm going to sleep. I'm fucked. Like, I need to get some rest." So then we get the call at like 4 a.m. a couple of hours later, and, he breaks the news and kind of goes from there.
So you know the numbers before you went to bed? Or did you?
No, I didn't. So I was in complete shock.
They just said, "We're going to come to you with an offer," and you're like, yeah, whatever.
We had a couple. Are we allowed to talk about like what other teams kind of float? I don't even know.
What other teams? What?
Like what they float at you and stuff?
I wouldn't go numbers. You can talk about other teams that you were talking to. That's fine.
So the Cavs and Orlando, and Brooklyn were kind of the three teams that were putting out numbers above minimum.
Yeah.
But none of them were 80 a year like I got with the Rockets. And the Rockets weren't even in the picture, because at the time the Rockets had set a clock with Brook, but they weren't really taking other calls. So nobody knew, from what I've gathered, where they sat on the list of prospective free agents for Houston. So I go to bed thinking that, hey, I'm probably going to Brooklyn. And then I wake up and my agent's like, "Hey, Houston's just offered you a $32 million deal over 4 years." And obviously we're fucking saying yes. And I was like, "What? Like, are you serious?" Because at the time I was thinking that the prospective contract was going to be between like 5 and 7 is what I was hoping for. And then it turned out to be 8. And I was just like I had offers I could have been taking for safety, purposes, but I did that in Serbia. I went, "No, I'm going to go sign with Zalgiris just for safety on the side." And so the whole time that story was just kind of ringing through my head of like, don't count yourself out yet.
Don't
like,
rush into it.
Just wait.
But they put the pressure on you, and that's the thing.
The pressure on you big time, and that's super hard because, as a young kid growing up, you never think at the time that you're going to make $5 million a year or something like that. And I was like, even with the Phoenix offer, I was like, geez, you look at this contract and it's a lot of money. Like, you really break it down and you're like,
it's
I
low,
never
but you're
thought.
Staying in the NBA, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And you're staying at the NBA and it's a shitload of money, like regardless. But I knew what my market value was and I was pretty confident in that. And so I was like, just wait. And then my greedy ass ended up, coming through. So it was good.
No, it makes total sense. And it's hard because, the Nerlens Noel stories of the world can also, for a guy like you,
want the shit out of you.
Yeah, I mean, he had a big offer and turned it down, and
Yep.
and he's been on not very good contracts since then, right? Then a Schroeder, $85 million from the Lakers, comes back on essentially a min deal, right?
Did he get a big deal this year? He did, right?
No, I don't think so, not yet.
Schroeder
Coming into next season,
yeah,
I'm not sure what he got, but
he went into like.
Oh, you might be right, but it's nowhere near the 85 he was offered. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
But that was always my thing too. I never went to free agency. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I didn't.
I was never in free agency.
You just kept extending.
So I did an extension with the Milwaukee Bucks after my third year, and then I did an extension with the Warriors after my first year. That big run in the playoffs, I did an extension. So I was pretty lucky that I never really went into like that whole. I didn't really like it. I kind of was like, look, I'm happy here. I love basketball. Like people, where do I sign? I was kind of that mentality.
Yeah.
It wasn't kind of like, oh, let me go see if I can get wooed by somewhere else. Couldn't be bothered going to fly and get schmoozed by teams where I was just getting in fights with their guys. Like, you know what I mean? It was just kind of a weird thing. So
you lucked out as well in the organizations you ended up in, right? Like, I don't know too much about Milwaukee, but
Milwaukee was, when I was there, the owner was very nice guy. He was a senator of Wisconsin, Senator Cole, and he was more, as long as I make the playoffs and I'm half profitable, I'm happy. So there wasn't an over incentive to go real big.
Right.
And Milwaukee was kind of a revolving door of a franchise. Like it was, I remember like I'd have 9 or 10 new teammates every season, man. And I'm just like,
Crazy.
how the hell are we meant to build a culture or continuity or getting better, with this kind of roster turnout every year? And then the one year we went well, the Fear the Deer year, the year I broke my arm, but we had a really good year. We had Kurt Thomas, who was 39, but as our backup, big, awesome vet. We had Luke Ridnow off the bench, Brandon Jennings rookie year. Yeah. Had this group, and then they just let them walk. They let Ridnow walk for, you got a decent deal, but they let Thomas walk. He just wanted the vet min, and they let all these guys, and they try to top it up with these other, kind of contracts that were like, oh, he's a really good guy, really good contracts can fit, and it just imploded.
Yeah.
Just brought another 7 new guys in. I'm like, what the fuck?
You can't build.
We finally had a decent year, and now you've gone try to be Einsteins and tweak the roster. Like, bring most of those guys back. But they try to outsmart everyone, and it backfired. And then the same thing was with Golden State. When I first got there, that was a revolving door. Like, no one wanted to stay there. You look at it now, and you're like, no one would believe that. All these bandwagoners are like,
right.
Golden State's the bee's knees. Like, no one wanted to stay there, man. Like, it was insane. Like, we had, free agent after free agent turn us down. Joe Lacob couldn't even meet with guys. Guys would shun him and not take his call early on in his process, right? And you see where it is now. So
your first year there was the year that you went to the Denver series, right?
Yeah, I got traded this year before. I had a broken ankle halfway through the year, and then my first somewhat healthy year was that year.
Right.
And then we started. Joe, when I got moved, moved from Monte Ellis, it was a fan favorite. So
right.
People hated me when I first got there. Like they're like,
is that
we
right?
traded you. Yeah, because
they're rough fans too.
And because I was hurt. So I was like, I got there in a boot. And so wait, we traded Monte for you, and you're in a boot. Like, what the fuck? So I felt all that, but it's either here or there. But that's, I was with 2 franchises that were kind of constantly felt like rebuilding, and then to see where Golden State is now from where it was, it takes an owner with, love or hate Joe Lacob, love or hate the way they spend, but they've put themselves in that situation. They weren't, their cap isn't a Lakers type where the Lakers were going to spend, like, they've been penalized because they've brought in a lot of those guys and nurtured those guys, had to pay them. So their cap's fucked because they've nurtured a lot of talent.
Right.
Draymond, Steph, Clay, all drafted there. Yeah. Wiggins came in that trade. So pretty interesting. But yeah, you headed to, I wouldn't say a basket case of a franchise, but a lot of changes there.
Yeah.
I think Ime is a very important hiring for them, considering the last couple of years in Houston. A lot of young guys that it feels like a team that is still in an arm wrestle for, the old adage of whose team is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to hate that shit because you'd see it in the locker rooms, like, this is my team. Like the big would be, this is my team, or then it'll be this, no, this is my team. And it's like, how about we just win? Like,
correct.
And you could clearly see that that's been an issue in Houston. You got the young fellas that are like, who's the one, who's the two?
Yeah.
The old school, probably before your time, Dallas Mavericks, when they had Jason Kidd, Jamal Mashburn, and Jim Jackson. That was kind of that thing. They just couldn't get along, couldn't figure it out. And then eventually it just implodes. And then 10 years later, like, we regretted it. We should have worked it out. Shaq Penny, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I feel like you're going into in Houston. How do you think you can help that challenge?
My take on all of this kind of stuff is I don't need to be doing anything extra. And I think that a lot of guys fuck up because they go in and they're like, yeah, I'm going to, take this guy under my wing and really, come out of my own space to be extra. And like that, as you know, there's a lot of extra in the NBA. I feel like sometimes you need less of that. And I think that that's kind of the standpoint I take on it is like when something needs to be said, that I'll pipe up and I'll say something, but like, I'm not going in there to be like, right, like I can come in here and really dominate this locker room and like, correct things. I'm just going to go in there and be exactly who I am. And, you hope that guys kind of come along with you. And I think seeing early on, I went to Vegas and I kind of, got along with the fellas and got to meet them and sit down and watch a couple of games with them in Vegas and stuff and then play with them. I don't think that there's as bad of a situation there as people might make it out to be. I think that there might, and I don't know any of the old coaches, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I don't even know their names. I'm useless with that stuff. But from talking to Ime, I feel as though we've got someone at the head of the table who's really going to lay out the foundation for us in a way that fits everyone's roles in real nice. And from what I gathered, his message to the front office when he got in charge was, I don't care who you bring in. I just want motherfuckers who are tough and who are going to lead the charge with how hard they play. So I'm just going to go in there and do exactly that. I'm just going to go in there and play super hard. Playing against them in the past, they were very, cool kids who come into a lot of money earlier in their lives, athletic, and they could just get up and down and didn't really care too much about the scoreboard. I really care about how we win, and I think that there's a real opportunity for a lot of us to solidify in our careers that we're winners if we can turn this thing around, make a play-in game, make potentially an 8th, 7th seed type deal. And it's tough in the West because there's a lot of bloody good teams. But if we can just put together a really solid year where we move the ball, where we play hard, play the right way, I think that given the NBA is what it is, and there's a lot of teams who don't do that, like the door's wide open. So that's kind of where I want to just impact the organization, is come in and be exactly who I am, be hard, play hard on the court, be a good bloke and hopefully mesh with the dudes there. Because I mean, as you know, if you change who you are to try and fit the mold and help the team along, I feel like you get found out as a fraud eventually.
That's not why they brought you there, yeah, exactly.
No, right. So I'm just going to go in there and be exactly who I am and see where the cards fall.
Yeah, I think just having a role rebounding guy, you can obviously stretch, get that confidence back from 3.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see how have they outlined majority 5? Will you place from 4?
It'll be a majority 5. They've left that open. They've kind of said to me, like, you're coming in to compete for significant minutes, and that's what's been laid out for me at the 5.
Sengun's obviously their starting 5, very talented. I see him as a mini Jokic to an extent once he figures it out and puts it together. A little bit smaller, but he's got that skill set.
Talented.
He can do a lot of shit.
Talented.
He can do a lot of shit, man, and he's sneaky athletic too, right? So
he's very athletic. Yeah.
I think that's a great 1-2 punch to have. But yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. I mean, Dylan Brooks, people make fun of him and laugh at him.
It's a guy you want on your team,
man. Like, what was crazy was all these idiots on the internet that are like posting the China memes after his run because he went at LeBron. It's like, if you like, he's a tough, valuable member of a team,
100%.
And I knew he was still going to get. I didn't think he'd get 80s, but I thought someone's going to pay him double digits a year.
For sure.
Like, he's a tough dude, and you can't value with analytics. Like, this is my thing with Russell Westbrook. People give him shit. But he shows up every night, man. Like, he shows up and balls to the wall shows up. Like, there's no like showing up and just cruise control with him. Cops a lot of shit, but you can't put that in value. Like, you can have this, like you said, the smoothest, coolest dude. Like, but when the going gets tough, they're either hurt or they're not playing hard or don't want contact, or if they're not getting calls to the free throw line, the rip through stuff, the hardened stuff, then they're non-existent, right?
This is where guys like Brooks. Westbrook, and I'm gonna draw on Book and CP as well. Like, going into a game with Book and CP last year, I knew that I was gonna have 2 dudes on my team who didn't care if you were LeBron James, who didn't care if you were Steph Curry. Like, they were gonna go at you, and they were gonna try and like beat you however they could. And a lot of guys in the NBA these days are buddy. And they're all best mates with each other around the circuit. So they
the summertime and all that shit.
Yeah, they're all chilling and they're all
agents.
laughing on the court. I have like none of that, and I like it that way, because if I was like best mates with someone on the court, like, it'd be tough for me to like
guard goes down.
Exactly. So going in with guys like those guys who I know that they're friends with a lot of dudes around the circuit, but a lot of people apparently don't like CP, right? Exactly. Yeah. But I was always super confident going into a game with CP, because I was like, he doesn't give a fuck who's on the other side of the court. He is going to go at you regardless.
With that history, though, we had that Clippers, that whole Clippers history, and I just don't like the way he goes about it. Kind of, it's weaselish, but if he was on my team,
you'd love him,
100%.
You'd fucking love him,
and I totally understand that. Like, it's people say the same thing about me. Like, I had teammates. I had Trevor Ariza come up to me after our Houston series one year, and he goes, "So when Dwight Howard was on their team, and I just did all the little things for us. Like I used to, poor Trevor Ariza, like he's chasing Clay off all these screens. I'm just laying him out every chance I get." Getting mad at me during games, talking shit, like, stop moving screens. And then at the end of the series, comes up to me and goes, "Man, I would love to play with you, dude." To me, that's like the biggest respect, because I literally beat the shit out of you for 7 games.
100%.
And it's the same kind of thing. So I think it's interesting. But But yeah, I think your squad will be all right. I think you'll be competitive. I mean, Van Vliet's the same. I think he's kind of a guy that flew under the radar that no one was really talking about, and now he's. And then you got Jay Sean there. I mean, have you met him yet?
Yeah, I've worked out with him.
He's
good dude.
Oh, he's one of the favorite teammates I had, just because he's always happy. Yeah. And once I'll let you figure it out. But once you hear his life circumstances, have a chat to him about what he dealt with growing up. It's on. Actually, we had him on Road Blows talking about it. But his family situation and what he had to encounter as a young fella, to see him every day and just smiling, dude, you're just like, holy shit! Like, what excuse do I have to be, mopey, So you've got some good people in that locker room. Look, I don't think you guys are going to win a championship, but I think you're going to be competitive. You might, even if you don't make the play-in or the playoffs, I think you're going to see a big step in Houston.
I agree.
Just from a competitive point of view, right? Like, I think he commands the locker room. It seems like he's a guy that's like, all right, you earn 80, but you're playing like shit or don't play hard, you're not going to play, you know? And I think that's very, very important. So,
which is also rare, right? Like, there's not many teams that, like, the first instance we had that happen was game 3 of the playoffs this year, where we needed to win. Like, there was no choice, and DA didn't have the best series. I love DA, and he's a great fella, but he didn't have the best series, and he's owned that and knows that. And Monty, played me throughout the rest of that game. That's fucking rare. That was the first time that had ever happened our season. Every single time we'd finished out a game, our starting 5 was in there at the end, no matter what, because we didn't have a Manu as or something like that as a 6 man who would kind of finish games out. Every time it was that starting 5, and it's just hard to come by coaches who are willing to stick their necks out.
Well, you need the front, like the front office is the issue, right? Like, so on most of the teams that I've been on that are mediocre or bad, when shit starts hitting the fan, you got the GM trying to save their job, you got the coach trying to save their job. So for fans out there listening to this, you got a GM saying to the coach, like, hey, I just paid that guy $15 million a year. You need to play him. And coach is like, he's fucking shit. He's not playing hard. I don't want to play him.
Right.
And then it becomes a battle of like GM and coach, owner's ear, who can get to him first. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's all these things, right? But I think Udoka's one of those guys that has that currency to say, you want to fucking fire me? Fire me. Fuck me. I'm doing it my way. And I speak to a lot of coaches in the NBA, both former and present, and the biggest regrets they have is like, you might as well die on your own sword, dude.
Might as well.
Like, if you're gonna die on the GM sword and then get fired because you did what the GM wanted, you're gonna go home and be like, what was I doing? Why didn't I, like, this isn't me. I didn't want to play this. Why didn't I do that? And that's a lot of regret that sinks in later. So I think you got a good one there. I think you guys will be right. But your contract, just break it down. It's only 1 year guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
And they're all the next 3 years have options going into the off season, correct?
Just non-guaranteed years.
Non-guaranteed, but they have
so they get to make a call on whether or not they
by a certain date.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then it's basically eight flat for the next 4 years.
So people have been like, this is a wild contract, but for me, it's not. Like,
$8 million for a year.
Yes, exactly.
That's kind of your mindset, though, right? It's still like, technically a free agent.
Well, it's also like, I'm expecting to play out this $32 million contract, but at the end of the day, I'm just like any other human being on the planet who, they sign a year contract, they see how they perform. If they perform up to scratch, then they get this, they get that extension and maybe a raise. I don't get a raise. I don't necessarily need one. I'm pretty happy with where that's at and contend around that number forever.
It keeps you on edge, though.
Like, and it keeps me hungry.
100%. Like, if it was guaranteed, like, I'm gonna tell you, there were times I signed a 5-year deal where you got a little niggle and you're like,
maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's human nature, right? Like, I want to be ready for the 3 games later. But if I was a free agent, I'd probably be like, which is probably on the flip side bad too, because then you're running yourself into a wall and then you might burn out and hurt yourself. Right?
See, I want to, and I said this at the start. I said this to India. She knows best. I said this to my parents. Like, my nature is that, I enjoy the process of being hungry. I enjoy the process of having people kind of say, nah, he's not worth that. He's not this, he's not that. And I enjoy the process of just fucking getting up every day and getting after it. And I feel as though this contract speaks to that a little bit of, hey, you're not out of the woods yet. Like, $8 million you can make work for a very, very fucking long time, but like, there's more opportunity there. So why not go and get it? And I feel as though that just really ties into me as a person. And I think that it'll get the best out of me.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're in a good spot with all that. Coming up, you got the Worlds, fresh off not fresh, but bronze medal.
Yep.
Great Olympics, by the way. Obviously setting history for the Boomers and all that. It's been spoken about to death, so we don't have to go into that. I think we've had enough about that. Not that you can get enough, but everyone knows every story about it. But I guess coming up to the Worlds, let's talk that a little bit. How do you think you guys are going to go first and foremost? Besides the obvious cliche of like we're going to go win another medal, that's obvious that's the goal. But I think now the mindset's got to change for you guys, right? Being probably more the hunted now.
Correct.
Than the hunter. I think the psyche of the Boomers historically has been we're the hunters, right? Like we're the underdogs. Everyone laughs at us. We're Australia. Like no one respects us. We're starting to get some currency, but we still haven't got that medal, at least when I was a part of it. So you're still kind of, they're still there, but we're not that worried. Now it's a bronze, top 3. Right. Teams are worried. How do you think the guys will handle that? Yeah,
it's a new challenge, and we have a lot of young guys coming in, and a lot of guys who won that medal who just kind of stepped up to the plate and swung and hit. They scored a medal. So it's the only real concern out of that is do people potentially think it's just going to happen? And I'm definitely not there. I don't think I ever will be. But you look. What got me going was actually a couple of weeks ago. The standings came out and we came in at 5 or some shit.
Who was above? So US, obviously.
US, Spain, France.
Argentina?
Croatia, maybe.
Croatia got 4?
Maybe.
Really?
It was something like that. Or it was Australia, then Croatia.
Okay, we can Google it.
Or maybe Canada snuck in with their squad or some shit.
No. Surely not. If Canada's in there, Canada have the most talented squad, and by the time their camp starts every year, there's like 15 of them are gone.
But yeah, when I saw that kind of ticked me off because I was like, how the hell do we put up the performances we have the last couple of years and we come in at 5 or 4 or something like that? What do we come out in at?
Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the power rankings.
Which mean absolutely nothing.
Spain's 1. Sorry, yeah. No, we're 3. We're 3 still.
Nah, we were
last updated 27th of Feb.
There was one more recently.
Argentina 4. So yeah, Spain 1, USA 2, Australia 3.
I think France
Argentina,
might have crept
France,
up.
Serbia, Slovenia, Lithuania, Croatia. Nowhere to be seen, unless there's one I'm missing.
So regardless, it's like, how the fuck is Spain first, right?
And then the power rankings, it's the US first. So who knows? Come on, people, get your shit together.
Yeah. So we came in at 4, right?
But on the World Cup power rankings.
Correct.
Yeah.
So how, I looked at that and
Slovenia
I
at 5. Yeah.
Okay, that was the one I saw. How is that possible that Spain come in at 2 when they haven't done anything in a while?
Well, Spain, the Euros, I think they did pretty well, didn't they? Didn't they win the Euros?
Yeah, but did we lose a game in the East Asia Cup?
And the Oceanias too.
Oh, that's right.
That hurts us. We're in a for these rankings, we get hurt because the Euros, in the non-Olympic World Cup years, we're playing against Iran and China's probably our toughest battle, whereas they're playing against Spain, Lithuania, Croatia.
Yeah, it's not fair, but it got me going regardless because I'm petty.
That's a good thing. Stick it on your locker room wall.
Exactly. But
Dominican Republic 12. What?
Bizarre, right? I think they got Carl Anthony Towns or something these days. They put a little trio together in the Dominican Republic.
And Carl does
change the game.
He's changed the game. Once he retires, he's change the game. I'm not sure how. We've discussed that on our pod, but
correct. But yeah, man, I don't know. We've got a lot of young bucks. We've got a lot of guys who haven't had a medal, and I mean, how I don't want to say young bucks are these days because I like to consider myself still somewhat young, but the fresh guys coming in, a lot of them these days are more into the lifestyle than they are basketball, and you just hope that we're not bringing that in. And I will say that one bloke in particular who's caught my eye as not being that in the slightest is Dyson Daniels.
Yeah, I've heard he's been killing.
Mate, he's been fucking awesome, and he plays his balls off every night. I think he's going to be a big in for us at this World Cup.
Well, someone was telling me even as a 16-year-old, he was talking to a friend of mine and was basically like, I want to be the best defender. I can be the best defender in Australia at that point, or my team, I can be the best defender. I already had that mindset of I can score and get in the lane, but I can lock shit down.
Mate, unreal.
That's what the Boomers need.
I didn't realize how good he was until I played with him just recently, and it was like, holy crap, this dude is damn near a starter for us. Like, he's that good. So I think that there's some young guys coming in. I know Josh Green has got a real chip on his shoulder every day, every second of his life, so he's going to be ready to go.
I heard Jack White's been born.
Jack White's unreal.
I had him.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's a starting 4-man for us.
Really? See, I had him. We did our picks, way too early picks, and I had him getting in one of the last spots. And people were like, "Oh, what Jack White?" I'm like, "Man, he does a lot of things that no one else is.
He covers up a lot for you."
And he knows how to fucking play.
I think of the lineup with him and Matisse out there, and I'm like, you got two dudes who just cover ground, and then stick Dyson in there. Like, those are three guys that just.
Do you have enough shooting on the perimeter? Paddy and Joey, other than Paddy and Joey. CG.
Well, Bubbles is obviously can shoot it. Jack White can really shoot the ball.
He's been shooting the hell out of that.
He can really shoot the ball.
G League numbers were really good.
I'll get back to 40%.
But that's what it's going to come down to, you know, with FIBA ball, you know how it is. The one chip for Dyson is that 3 ball still inconsistent for him. Yeah. So you just, you know, and
Josh Green shot the crap out of the ball.
Josh had a really good couple of weeks in the NBA. Yeah. He was kind of up and down as well, but he had a couple of weeks where he was like 6 for 7 from 3. So coming in as a non-shooter, right? Yeah. In the NBA draft, so he's worked at it. But how do you see your pool going, man? Japan, Finland, and Germany.
Tough teams.
I think it's a sleepy group, man. Like I feel like we
always cop a really tough group.
Finland, like you got
Larry Markkinen.
Yeah, like he's most improved player. Like he's had a hell of a run, and he's a gunner for them.
I think he plays the 5, so I'm fucked.
Yeah, you're going to be running off a lot of screen, like a mini Jokic type role, running off pin downs and shit. And then Germany, you know, Schroeder and a little bit.
Yeah, Germany's
they'll play hard.
Yeah, we played against Germany in the pre-tournament at the World Cup, right? And they were bloody good. And then we
solid.
Played against them last year at the Olympics. I feel like they didn't bring their full roster, but they gave us a good game.
Yeah.
Japan's obviously
they'll just be fundamental. Japan,
they play crazy. They lost Rui Hachimura as well, so I'm not too stressed. He's out, so I'm not too stressed about them. But Finland with Lowry, like Lowry can really go off, and I've seen him play in the Euro Cup and stuff. He's unreal, and I think they have a guard who's quite good. So that's a little 1-2 punch that might be tough to contain, but yeah, no, mate, it's a tough group, and we just, you know, as you know, you've got to win these games. You can't come out of that first group down to, you know, 1 and 2 or something. You've got to get 2 of them at least.
It's top 2 through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then the second position puts you in a worse pool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to win through, but yeah. What about your personal life, man? Getting married.
Get married.
Down.
Yeah, we're going to get married after the Olympics, which is going to be good. So I'll be seeing you with the kids out in London, no doubt.
Brutal trip for us, brother. But no, we'll be there.
Yeah,
it's a year away. We can plan, but kids will be old enough to travel there.
Yeah, it should be good. Apart from that, mate, just dealing with some fun stuff on the side, and that's kind of it.
What are you going towards right now, away from the court? Trying to, you know, obviously you're deeply in love, and young love's beautiful, you know. So
she stands over there completely clueless. We're talking about her.
Mrs. is over there, just she got up before and you gave her a nice smile and a wink. So still deeply in love. It's good to see, Jock. But what are you finding for your mentals away from the game? Trying to get away from things. Have you found any hobbies? Have you found any likes? What do you?
Yeah, mate, I do, as much of a hard time as you give me for it, I do enjoy the photography, and I'm kind of putting together a little bit of like a book on that, which is awesome. You know, I had the camp thing going, which is a big focus for me, but that fell through, unfortunately.
What happened there?
Mate, I was advised by 3 doctors. My mates will give me a hard time about this, but I was advised by 3 doctors that I had meningitis, and it turns out that I didn't. So this was on the Friday night. We had the camp at 6 a.m., 9 a.m. on the Saturday. And the doctors, all 3 of them, I kept calling doctors, be like, hey, can I go? Can I go? And they were just like, absolutely not. Like, with the symptoms you're showing and everything, don't go. Turns out it was just the flu. But at the same time, it was like, mate, if I went into a camp and, you know, gave all these kids the flu or something, it's just not a great look. So, yeah, really apologetic to all of the families, and we're putting something special together for them and all the kids. But, you know, I was in Phoenix, so we got on the golf course a fair bit. Golf course is great. You know, love fucking around with the dog. The dog just takes so much time through the day and all that kind of stuff. But mate, with a little bit more cheddar in my pocket, I'm hoping that I can have some more fun in terms of the hobbies and stuff. So we'll see what I can come up with.
So no hobbies then, just photography, really?
Yeah, just photography, golf.
I don't know. When you say golf, are you just golf because every other NBA player is golf, or are you actually serious about it?
I actually really, really enjoy it. And, you know, I played I wouldn't say, I mean, I'm not Steph. Like, I'm not going and playing tournaments, but.
I can't believe he won a tournament, by the way.
It's crazy. He's a freak, isn't he?
I've told people, like, if you just made a game up, like, hey, throw this microphone in that thing over there, like, within 3, he's like nailing it. You're just like, it's not fair. Like, he's just one of those guys that he just has it on top of work ethic, of course. But
crazy. Apart from that, mate, I do enjoy, like, I do a lot of research around like watches and stuff. I think we've spoken about it a little bit. Yep. So that's a little bit of a hobby for me, just keeping up to date. I haven't got too many of them, but stuff like that. I need to find some more hobbies. I fucking love cards, but the missus hates cards, so I need to find some people to play with. Cards. Yeah.
As in what card? Poker?
I've just got around this new game, Canasta. Have you ever played Canasta?
Is it with a regular deck of cards, or it's
regular deck of cards. Deck of cards. You can put money on it, but I typically don't.
You got to put money on it, man. You need to have a bit of a sweat, man. You can't.
Mate, I'm in it for just the competitive aspect of it. It's fucking awesome. So.
Yeah, the competitive aspect is a little bit more cash, and then you're like, you know.
Yeah, but I haven't had any cash till.
I'm not saying you don't need to gamble thousands of millions. Just put a little bit on.
Yeah,
there.
a little bit. It's fun.
A little drops for the national team. You know?
What are your hobbies apart from the pod?
Poker, and my kid. Like, I've been around my kids a lot. Been a real, interesting situation just because I don't have to work. So I actually enjoy picking my kids up from school, dropping them off.
Yeah.
Probably around too much for my kids, like, because they come home and they're like, they still don't understand why I don't work.
Right.
I think they think it's normal. I think they think, oh yeah, mum and dad just they sit at home and wait for kids to come home from school. Right. Like, try to explain to them, like, this shit's not normal.
Right.
So I'm trying to get out of the house more sometimes now strategically, because I'm like, it's not a good thing neither. But I cherish, like, being able to go to like Father's Day thing they do at school.
That's sick.
All that kind of stuff, like, which my parents could never do because they work so much, right? So being able to do that, it's the most important times of their lives. So I do a lot of that, play a lot of poker online and in person. Podcast takes a bit of time dealing with pro shit and putting together run sheets and all that kind of stuff. So
people always talk about, like, oh, you've got to find a hobby. Like, what the fuck hobbies are there to do? I don't even know which hobbies there are to do.
Reading books. You could, everyone's don't do podcasting. Everyone's doing that. Every dickhead's doing that these days.
I actually thought about it for a second there.
Yeah,
I did think about it, and I was like,
it's a lot of time. Like, it's
too many people doing it.
For me, it was good because it was post retirement, and it's actually kept me close to the game. So that's why I've enjoyed doing it, especially during COVID, because we couldn't really do much. So it kept me close to talking about the game and staying in tune with what's going on. Like, I enjoy like the mental aspect of basketball as much as the physical, like schemes and like how do we stop this guy? Like, I coach my kids' local school, their older group, and I've enjoyed that. Like, it's just I love that part of the game, the mental warfare of it. So maybe I'll coach one day. I don't want to do any of that with my kids. I don't want to be moving around. If you go on the coaching game, you had a whim.
Gone.
Yeah, you get fired. You're going over there. I don't want to have them go through the.
Mate, you go in the club. You just tell them, hey, boys, I'm stepping
sign
in.
Myself.
Yeah,
sign
exactly.
A new coach.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of what I'd be. Yeah, I mean, I'd highly regard or influence you to find something, and photography sounds like it's it. But even if it's just reading, or I studied a few courses while I was in the NBA.
Yeah, you told me that.
So I think, like, just finding something where you can. For me, it was poker. Like, I loved it when we got on a plane. We play poker so much, and I loved it so much that we go on 5-hour cross-country flights, and we'd be like, don't land yet. Don't land yet.
Couple circles.
Whereas when you're not playing, like, those flights are brutal, right? So poker for me was a game that literally, whatever happened on the basketball court, once you're in that bubble of playing, and like, Draymond just bluffed me and showed me, like, fuck him, and then Steph just won a big pot, or even just playing with randoms that aren't big names, you kind of like get lost in it. Yeah, and it's about the game. It's such a good refresh, right?
Yeah, I'm not good at that. Like, the long flights are tough for me. And mate, to be honest with you, like, a lot of the hobbies that really interest me are in our contracts where we can't do them. Like, coming from up in Denny and stuff. Like, I fucking love motorbike riding, and one of the things I want to do is I really want
dirt bikes.
Want to get out there. I want to go. One of my best mates, Dougal Hamilton, he jumped on a bike with his brother and went, like, cross Colorado on it through Grand Canyon areas, and like
on a dirt bike.
It looked fucking unbelievable.
You're not doing that for a while, brother. Let me give you a tip. You're not doing that till you're done playing.
And then, like, you know, I used to really enjoy cross-country skiing, and I used to enjoy just going up and hitting the slopes a little bit. So, like, all my hobbies are like that, and it's like hiking and stuff. Like, I can't go hike a fucking mountain in the middle of the season. Like, so it's just like a lot of my hobbies that I really want to do, like traveling the world, doing stuff like that, I just won't be able to do for a very long time. So
you're skydiving in Mitch Creek?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But I grew up a gearhead, right? Yeah. Dad was a mechanic, so I had some toys while I was playing. I had a Harley Davidson for a while. No one knows this, and I sent it to Croatia. Actually, because it sat for so long, for 11 months a year in Croatia, we'd come for about a month a year in the off season. The motor seized mid ride one time. The brake seized, and my wife and I came off it.
Bullshit. How fast?
Thankfully, we'll go on, like, you know, in Europe, they have all the boom parking. Just going around the boom gate, and the thing just like locked completely, and just we sat it down and scuffed my ankle. No one knew or found out about it, right? And then before that, in Milwaukee, I went and bought a 4-wheeler, and I put a winch on it and put I put a plow on the front. So I used to plow my own driveway sometimes, just being a dickhead, like, I can afford this, I'm just going to buy it. So I did it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, fuck this takes way too long.
Yeah.
And then I also bought a snowmobile.
Oh, so, that's great.
So I come home from practice, like no one knew, and because the snowmobiling was cool because you have the big ass helmet on, no one knows who the fuck you are. And in Wisconsin they have snowmobile trails everywhere.
No shit.
Like I could go out of my house, cross the main. I was on a main road, cross the main road, and there was trails through forests.
And you just go carve them up.
And there'd be like bars and restaurants on the trails.
Mate, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, so I'll just go out snowmobiling. But I was never a guy that was like stupidly like, I'm going to thrash this and try to hit a tree and hurt myself. So I take my missus on the back sometimes and we go out. But like per NBA contract, if they find out, they can't do anything. It's if you get hurt doing it, right?
Then you're fucked.
And I had jet skis in Melbourne. So I was always doing that stuff, but within reason, right? And that's the biggest challenge because you like feel like, especially I know some of your mates, so they're all doing crazy shit, going out and camping and boats and all that kind of stuff. You kind of want to do it, but then you're like, fuck, like I can't be too much of an idiot.
100%.
If something does happen, and then you're going to try to figure out a way of like, I hurt myself on a bike, how can I make this look like I was training?
Yeah, mate, we've actually managed it. So we this is a great story, and I have a video to back it up as well. But one of my mates, we were all up the farm just having a good time. One of my mates jumped in a paddock bomb, and for people who don't know, paddock bombs they're just like cars you pick up on the side of the road, completely illegal to drive on the roads. You throw them on the farm and you just cruise around the farm with them. And one of them, you know, he'd just gotten there. He'd bought a paddock bomb on the way up to the farm, $500 off the side of the road. And he comes tearing down this long road that we've got on the farm to the paddock. We were all out there. We were shooting clays and just, you know, relaxing as the fellas. We'd go away and we'd do these kind of weekends once a year. And he pulls up, hanging out the window, like steering the car, starts doing circle work for 10 minutes. And this paddock is fucking massive. So it's just like he had no excuse to hit anything.
He found it.
He found one of Dad's motorbikes, ran straight over the top of it. Because he was in reverse, backs up for like a good 3-4 seconds, just straight over the top of it. We fully crafted this story where...
Like a nice bike? Decent bike?
Mate, it was a Honda...
Yeah, it's like a decent bike.
Yeah, it was... I want to say it was a Honda 250 or something like that. Like it was a big boy bike and it was really nice. So he fucking crashes over this bike, and we fabricated this whole story for like 4 years, and we told him, hey, mate, like... This guy was driving the motorbike. He hit a log, flipped over the front, comes off scot-free. I think we might have like punched him in the face to give him a bruise or something like that. Comes off the front of the motorbike. The motorbike's completely fucked. And we'd done a few things where we'd messed up some of Dad's machinery the last couple of times we went. Like we sunk his boat or something. I remember
that story.
Yeah.
Destroyed his hose too.
Yeah. Let's relax. And so... We went through this whole thing where we just made up like this story. So I reckon I'd be a bit of a seasoned vet if I got a motorbike, had an accident. Like I'd be able to come up with
figure out a way.
The boys were in town and ran over it. I'd go the
Does
reverse.
Does he know about the motorbike?
Yeah, he knows. He's seen the video. We told him like a year ago. Oh, we might have showed him at the engagement party actually. I think that's when we told him.
Yeah.
It was gold.
Love the farm stories, man. You can't beat it. But just finished some Q&As from fans on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll just do one of each, but a bunch of people want to know, what do we have here? Well, you mentioned which teams were interested, so we don't need to answer that one. Why aren't you taking Pros Calls is the other one, but we don't have to get into that one too much. Who is your favorite teammate of all time? That's from YDB on Twitter.
Oh, mate, I'm actually going to say it's probably, and this isn't just because I'm on your podcast, but I would say that I speak to you the most out of any of my old teammates. So it'd be you or Chris Goulding.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. No pressure.
No pressure at all. But you and CG were definitely my two favourites and who I probably speak to the most out of any of my old teammates.
Yeah.
Oh, and Mikhail Bridges.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys banter a fair bit on Twitter.
Yeah, Mikhail. A couple of my teammates this year, like Cam Payne and Cam Johnson, were probably some of the best as well. So, yeah, you five would be up there.
Beautiful. All right, Facebook. Sue Ellen Landale, by the way, said, be nice to Jock. So always nice to Jock.
Thanks, Mum.
Harley Phillips says, massive Suns fan here and very sad to see you go, but happy you got paid. Super stoked for that. Just wondering what you love most about Phoenix and what you're looking forward to most about Houston.
Yeah, we loved the weather. Having played in cold places a long time, Phoenix's weather, the golf courses and kind of the mountains that we got to hike for the year were some of the best. And then, we were able to really go and just sitting. We found a few favourite coffee shops we'd go sit in, and there'd be regular people just come up and sit down and have a chat with us for an hour or something like that. So just the general vibe, being relaxed in Phoenix was awesome as well.
It makes sense. And Phoenix is a cool city.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, a lot of cool things. A lot of Hispanic influence too. Good Hispanic restaurants. I always enjoyed my time in Phoenix. Yeah. I always had it on kind of a list that if I ever went anywhere and if I ever was a free agent, I'd definitely like to look there because I was like, it's cool, man. Like some players didn't really like it because smaller city and all that. But I'm an outdoor guy. Like to go out and get out
motorbikes through the hills.
Yeah, beautiful. Last one is from Instagram. What do we have here? What's the biggest difference between the Spurs and Suns culture / environments, and what role are you expecting to play in Houston?
Well, the Spurs and Suns cultures were pretty much predicated off one another. I mean, Monty was a Spurs guy. He came from the Spurs. And so a lot of the lessons that Pop kind of taught him through his playing career there, and I think he coached a little while there as well. I think he kind of brought to Phoenix. So there wasn't too many cultural differences. You went in there looking forward to seeing the people in there every day, and that's always really nice when you're not like, oh fuck, I gotta sit down and speak with this bloke again or whatever it might be. So that was really good. Monty was an open door. Could go and chat to him anytime, and the assistant coaches and all of the staff and players were just a group of great blokes that I really have nothing bad to say about them as a collective.
Surely, I've got one. So surely Phoenix weren't. So
they didn't play mind games with you, if that's what you're about to.
No.
Okay.
I wasn't going there, but that's another thing. But we checked into or checked out of hotels and crossed over the Spurs a couple of times because, when you go to LA, Spurs might have just played the Clippers.
Yeah.
We checked. Whenever I would see the Spurs staff and people, these people were like fucking robotic military people, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking from like just putting their bags on the baggage carousel. It was all army-like, all the same haircuts.
Yeah.
All like
that's fair.
Collared shirts.
That's fair.
It couldn't have been like that in Phoenix.
Nah, it's not at all. We had some real personalities. I mean, we had one of your old teammates, Jarrett Jack.
Yeah, JJ's cool.
Serious
like
personality. I fucking love Jack. Still chat to him a lot. The staff was definitely not what you're saying. They definitely weren't
Spurs
the robotic.
Insane, man. I've never seen anything like it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, they got Nelly there.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Nelly was the crazy thing is Nelly was the complete opposite of what I mold as a Spurs guy when I played with him. Like loose, taking the piss, doing pranks on people, like fucking around, sweat, and then
and he's still Nelly. Like that's never changed. But you can tell when he steps on the floor, it's
Spurs Nelly.
It's like correct. It's his alter ego or something like that.
Yeah.
Monty did a great job of letting everyone's characters kind of shine, and he would let the assistant coaches really have the last say if they wanted to. So he was all inclusive. That's not to say that Pop wasn't, and I really didn't. I mean, I was there for a year. I didn't really see Pop at his finest, winning championships and stuff because we weren't that good. But I mean, there was definitely an aspect of that still floating around, and just in terms of the training staff as well. Like the training staff at the Spurs was very regimented and strict, and San Antonio, the Suns was a lot of characters. We had a lot of characters. It was a great time, mate. It was just one big fucking party. So,
and the fact that I don't know if you caught wind of this, but the Spurs know every fucking thing you do in that city.
Yeah.
So when you play for the Spurs,
they know.
Everywhere you go, like you can go to a local hole-in-the-wall bar and have a shot of tequila.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of Pop walking in saying, "How's your tequila yesterday?" I've legit heard that. I've heard I had teammates of mine tell me, and former teammates that were there, they'd be at a random restaurant and the waiter would send out a bottle of wine from Pop, just like a little subtle "fuck you, I know you're at that restaurant. Don't stay out too late."
We've had multiple instances where we were sitting at dinner. And we'd be like, all right, we'll just get the bill. It's happened 3 times to us in like 3 weeks. 3 times, 3 weeks. Hey, we'll just grab the bill. That's done. What do you mean it's done? Pop paid for it. Or RC Buford paid for it. And we'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
how do they know I was here?
How the hell are they? Yeah. Where are they? And they'd just not be there.
Yeah.
Or they'd have come and gone or whatever, but mate, unbelievable. Like they'd just be there, and that's kind of cool because like these are the top dogs just paying for me, some bum off. And
the community loves you guys there too, like good or bad.
Yeah.
But I know some former teammates who they didn't have drinking problems. They like to get a drink, and that would then get past the Spurs, and that would factor in. That would come up in their
extension
meetings or free agency meetings. Like we know you like to get on the drink and this. They're like, what? Yeah. What do you mean? Like, well, we've got people in town, so it is like a PI there. But just thinking to your contract, man. 8 in your first year. I remember our first training camp together. You fucked my back up. So
did I really?
Really bad. Like I felt like you almost jumped on it. So I'm gonna potentially file proceedings because my back, I put it down to you, man. Like I had a great 13-year NBA, 14-year NBA career. That one Boomers camp, I think that's what fucked my back, man. So I potentially will be seeking counsel, and I think a couple of mil of that 8 will be square. What do you think?
No comment. No comment.
For those with half a brain, you'll know where I'm going with that. Jock doing the smart thing, taking the high road. But man, appreciate you dropping by. First interview in the studio that were built, so you've christened it forever, kind of like the wall at Andrew Bogut basketball back in the day when you signed
correct.
that.
You still owe me $5,000 for that,
for the concrete block. But yeah, we appreciate it, man. We're big supporters of you. I am. Everyone knows that. Even though you were the one United year, I kind of blocked you out as a mate. But other than that, we're real good. Yeah. We wish you all the best, man. All our fans and followers really respect your journey. I think the ups and downs you had through college and bouncing back and then having a great finish to that, doing the tough roads. We really didn't get into Europe because I know you got a shitload of stories from there as well, but going through that route and coming back and now finally getting some sort of security, I think you've earned it. And I think everyone's really proud, and now, go and get another medal that's hopefully not bronze and a different color, and
correct.
Will be great.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Let's get rogue.